She always had a knack for keeping secrets, or so she thought. For years I believed we were the perfect couple. Friends envied us, family admired us, and I lived in the blissful illusion that love was enough to weather any storm. But the truth has a way of clawing its way to the surface, and when it does, it leaves destruction in its wake. The first cracks appeared when she started working late, excuses that seemed reasonable at first. Deadlines, demanding clients, and office parties became the norm. At first I dismissed it. She was ambitious after all, and her drive had always been part of what I loved about her. But love can blind you to the obvious. One night, while she was in the shower, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. I glanced at the screen, intending to ignore it, but a single word caught my eye. And quote, "Miss you," end quote, it read, followed by a name I didn't recognize. My heart sank, a lead weight in my chest. I told myself to stop, to respect her privacy. But doubt is a persistent itch, and curiosity is a dangerous tool. My hands trembled as I unlocked her phone. She'd given me the password months ago, never imagining I'd have a reason to use it this way. What I found wasn't just incriminating, it was damning. Videos, messages, and photos, all meticulously saved. The images burned into my mind, each one a betrayal worse than the last. But it wasn't just the content that devastated me, it was the realization that she had taken such little care to hide it. That night I couldn't sleep. I replayed every moment, every lie she'd told me, every time I'd believed her. Anger coursed through me, cold and relentless. I knew I couldn't let this go, but I wasn't sure what justice looked like yet. Then, like a flicker in the darkness, an idea took shape. She could so casually betray me, then perhaps the world deserved to see her truth. Didn't know how far I'd go, but one thing was clear: this wasn't over. The days that followed were a haze of anger, confusion, and questions, without answers. She carried on as if nothing was wrong, laughing at the dinner table and kissing me goodnight while I watched her every move through a lens of suspicion. My mind raced constantly, replaying the images and words I'd uncovered on her phone. How long had this been going on? Did she feel any guilt? Was I just another part of the life she was pretending to live? Her behavior didn't change much, at least not enough to confirm anything. But once doubt takes hold, it finds validation in everything. Quick glance at her phone, a hurried excuse about staying late at work, or her sudden need to take calls in another room, all of it felt like evidence, even if I couldn't be sure. I told myself I needed proof, something undeniable. The photos and messages were enough for me, but if I was going to confront her, or anyone else, I needed more. Something irrefutable. The idea of revenge simmered in my mind, but I hadn't yet decided what form it would take. One night the answer fell into my lap. She had left her laptop open on the kitchen counter while she went upstairs to grab something. I passed it, hesitating only briefly before curiosity overwhelmed me. I opened her messages and saw a string of emails between her and him. My stomach churned as I read them, plans for secret meetings, jokes I wasn't a part of, and videos exchanged late at night. The video that changed everything was nestled in an innocuously titled folder, buried just deep enough to suggest she thought no one would find. It was short but damning, a recording of them together, laughing, touching, and sharing moments that had once been mine. I stared at the screen, numb with disbelief. I couldn't look away even as my heart screamed at me to shut the laptop and pretend I hadn't seen it. But there was no pretending anymore. She had taken something sacred and handed it to someone else. That night, as she slept beside me, I lay awake, the video playing over and over in my mind. My anger grew colder, sharper, taking the shape of a plan. She had flaunted her betrayal with such carelessness, believing I'd never find out. But now I knew, and I wasn't going to let her walk away unscathed. For the next few days I worked quietly. I backed up the video and every other piece of evidence I had gathered. I avoided her questions about why I seemed distant, brushing them off with half-hearted excuses. Each time she kissed me goodbye in the morning, I felt the sting of her lies. I started imagining the moment of reckoning, what it would feel like to expose her, to see the look on her face when she realized she could no longer hide. It wasn't just about hurting her, it was about reclaiming my dignity. She had reduced our relationship to a joke, and I wanted her to feel the weight of what she'd done. Still, a part of me hesitated. Was I really prepared to cross this line? What I acted, there would be no taking it back. But the more I thought about the lies, the deceit, and the betrayal, the more my resolve hardened. She had made her choices. Now it was time for her to face the consequences. The day I decided to act, she left for work without a clue about what was coming. I sat at the kitchen table for a long time, staring at my phone, the evidence ready to be sent with a single tap. My hands shook as I hovered over the send button, the enormity of what I was about to do settling over me. But then I thought of her laughter, her whispered lies, and the way she had turned our life into a charade. My finger pressed down and the message was sent. There was no turning back now. The message had been sent, the video and every damning piece of evidence delivered to its intended recipient, her boss. My heart pounded as I imagined his reaction. Would he call her in immediately? Would he share it with others? The possibilities swirled in my mind as I waited, the weight of my decision settling in. Hours passed before the first sign of fallout appeared. She came home later than usual, her face pale and her movements frantic. Her bag dropped to the floor as she turned to me, her expression a mix of fury and disbelief. You sent it, she said, her voice trembling. You sent the video to my boss. I did, I replied, my tone calm but firm. He deserved to know the truth. She stared at me, her mouth opening as if to argue, but no words came. Instead, she let out a bitter laugh, shaking her head as she sank onto the couch. Do you have any idea what you've done? I know exactly what I've done, I said, sitting across from her. The real question is, do you? How long did you think you could get away with it? Did you really think I'd never find out? Her hands clenched into fists, but her voice cracked as she spoke. It wasn't supposed to be like this. It was a mistake. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Don't insult me, I snapped. A mistake is one bad decision. You didn't just make a mistake, you built an entire lie day by day, choice by choice. She buried her face in her hands and for a moment I thought I saw tears. You've ruined me, she whispered. Everything I've worked for, gone. Do you even care what happens to me now? Did you care what you were doing to me? I shot back. Every time you lied, every time you snuck around, you didn't care about me then. Don't expect me to care now. The next day at her office, the fallout was immediate. Her boss had called her in early along with the man in the video. Their colleagues whispered as they passed, the weight of scandal hanging in the air. She tried to put on a brave face, but it was clear the strain was taking its toll. Her boss had reassigned both of them to separate departments, effectively ensuring they would never work together again. The man in the video, who had once seemed so confident, now avoided her entirely. Their affair, once a thrilling secret, was now a burden neither could carry. At home, the tension was unbearable. She avoided me as much as possible, her attempts to repair what was left of her life consuming her. Every waking moment, I watched her crumble piece by piece as the reality of what I'd done sank in. But as much as I'd wanted this outcome, it didn't feel like victory. I had imagined satisfaction, a sense of justice, but instead there was an emptiness I hadn't anticipated. I had hurt her, yes, but I had also hurt myself in the process. The video had been a weapon, one I'd wielded without fully considering the collateral damage. Now, as I sat alone in the silence of our home, I wondered if I had crossed a line I could never return from. Was it worth? The question haunted me, echoing in my mind as I tried to convince myself I had done the right thing. Revenge had been my answer to betrayal, a way to reclaim my dignity and punish her for what she had done. But as I watched her life crumble, I realized something I hadn't before. Revenge doesn't heal wounds. It only trades one kind of pain for another. She and I were broken in different ways now, fragments of a life we had once shared. And while I had no regrets about exposing the truth, I couldn't ignore the cost of what I had done. The weight of that truth was something I would carry with me long after the last whispers about the video had faded. The aftermath of my decision unfolded like the slow unraveling of a tightly woven thread. At first there was silence, no arguments, no shouting, just an eerie, suffocating quiet. She avoided me, speaking only when necessary, her once confident demeanor replaced by a brittle tension. Every word we exchanged felt like stepping on broken glass. Her workplace was in turmoil. The affair had spread through the office. Like wildfire, whispered conversations following her every move. She had once been respected, admired for her dedication and poise, but now she was the subject of scandal. Her boss had made it clear that while he wouldn't terminate her employment, her position was precarious. The reassignment to a less significant role only added to her humiliation. Her lover fared no better. Their relationship, built on deceit, couldn't withstand the weight of exposure. He stopped speaking to her altogether, their stolen moments replaced by awkward silences and avoidance. Whatever connection they thought they had crumbled under the judgment of their peers. At home, I observed her disintegration with a mix of satisfaction and unease. Part of me relished her downfall, the poetic justice of seeing her face the consequences of her actions. But as the days turned into weeks, a gnawing sense of guilt began to creep in. I had wanted justice, but at what cost? She spent hours in silence, staring at her phone or pacing the living room. One evening she finally broke down. "Do you hate me that much?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Enough to destroy everything?" I didn't answer immediately. Hate wasn't the right word. "I don't hate you," I said finally. "But I couldn't let you get away with it. You broke something in me, something I don't think I can ever fix." Her tears fell freely then, but I didn't move to comfort her. I had nothing left to give. The fallout extended beyond her. Friends we'd once shared began choosing sides, some condemning her actions, others questioning the severity of my response. My own sense of triumph began to sour as I realized that revenge hadn't brought the closure I'd hoped for. It was a fleeting victory, one that left behind an emptiness I couldn't shake. Nights were the worst. The house felt too quiet, the silence filled with memories of what we'd lost. I would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying the moment I'd sent the video, wondering if I could have done things differently. As time passed, the intensity of the situation began to fade. She stayed, though the space between us was vast and unbridgeable. We were two strangers living under the same roof, both haunted by the choices that had brought us to this point. One evening, as we sat in the same room for the first time in weeks, she spoke softly. "I don't know if you'll ever forgive me, and I don't know if I'll ever forgive you. But I think we're both carrying something we can't let go of." Her words stayed with me. Revenge had given me power in the moment, but it hadn't healed the wounds. It hadn't undone the betrayal or restored what we'd lost. If anything, it had added new scars, ones that would linger long after the pain of her affair had dulled. In the end, I was left with a question I couldn't answer. Was it worth it? Would I do it again knowing what I know now? I still don't know. Betrayal changes you, but so does revenge. All I know is that justice, even when served, rarely feels as satisfying as we imagine it will. Would you have done the same in my place? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Was this justice, or did I go too far? If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more gripping tales of betrayal and revenge. Your support means the world to us. Join our journey as we explore the raw, unfiltered sides of human relationships.